Yes, that's right, folks. Dash and Reinar have teamed up once again to make beautiful music. Coming soon, it is High Roctane. It's going to be something else. It could either be too good or not good at all. We don't know. Fresh and Buds now.
Fresh and
All right, folks, welcome back to yet another episode of Fresh and Buds. I'm your host, Tommy Fresh, and you are all of my buds, and today we got a great episode for you all. It is the return of Rachel, aka MaxFerocity. Max, how's it going? How are you? Welcome back.
It's going great. It's a sunny day out here in the Chicagoland area. I can't ask for more on a nice fall day. Probably one of the only ones we'll get.
Yeah, it's we've had a lot of nice days here in Jersey until today, so we must have taken all the
Trading.
bad weather. It is raining right now, but hopefully stopping soon. But hey, listen, we got a lot to talk about this week. It's going to be a good episode. First of all, we have to catch up with you, and then we're going to talk a little bit about these Rosetta heroes and did they kind of hit the mark, right? Did they do everything that we as fans and players want them to do in multiple different facets? So we'll talk about that in a bit. But it has been a minute, Max. You've done so much since we last chatted. I mean, it's been a while. I mean, we've seen each other in person, but on the show, what have you been up to? What's new?
Well, there's always something new in the workshop. You know that. Like I'm bringing usually a new cosplay. It seems like every other month. I still don't know how I'm doing it. Lack of sleep. But yeah, for me, it's just been a lot of, I guess, new experimentation in my cosplay and in my play. I know we were just talking before we started recording here about trying to branch out, try other heroes, try other classes, and that, goes for both my art as well as my play at the table. So a lot going on since we last chatted. Because what was the last time we talked? Was that right after the Nitro Mechanoid?
It was. It was right
Baltimore?
after that. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's like a year and a half ago. It feels like a lifetime.
Yeah. I mean, that was, an insane cosplay. But you've done many since. What kind have you been doing? We just saw.
Yeah, I guess we talk like we know, but the listeners don't necessarily know. So since the Nitro Mechanoid, God, it feels like a lifetime because right after that, I did Dash.io.
Oh.
I did that big reveal with Flesh and Blood themselves for Bright Light. So I was Dash.io. I revealed the hero, and I went to Barcelona as the hero. I did Data Doll post then. Let's see, the Necropotent this past couple of months ago, stomping around as a Terminator. And then a couple other assorted things. I've done some warrior stuff, Hollow Golden Helm and Minerva Themis, and most recently Findle's Fighting Spirit.
Yeah, I mean, it's been. I mean, you certainly flex your muscles when it comes to the cosplaying world. I mean, you just kill it, right? And it's awesome. To be able to be the hero that came out, right? Like Dash.io is so cool, and certainly out of the three heroes that came out of that set, the best one, I think, arguably, right? It's just
I don't even think there's an argument, honestly. Both from a cool perspective, like storyline wise, and like a meta how she plays perspective, I think she's just taking the world by storm still.
Yeah, she really is. And now, I mean, we'll get to the Finals Fighting Spirit because I do want to talk about that because that's the most recent one and the one that felt like almost like a departure from what you would normally do, right? We've seen some warrior stuff, but Dash.io, you certainly are playing both versions of Dash, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
But Dash.io is probably the best version of Dash right now, if I were to guess, going into ProQuest season in a week. Actually, when this comes out, it might be this weekend.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Dash.io in this weird meta with rune blades and wizards being prevalent again?
So I think right now she's in a little bit of a weird spot in this kind of interim before her Armory deck comes out, which I don't have the date off the top of my head, but I keep thinking it's like the 10th of October. I'd have to go look it up. And so I think she exists in an interesting space right now where she's just lost her Tome of Findle. So that was like a big key piece of at least the version that I was playing. And then going into what we're going to get, I think, aggressively out of that deck, the new headpiece, a bunch of new things that are coming out of there, whether that's equipment or new cards. I think that's going to change it, but I think she's going to be extremely well positioned when those come out. That's not to say she's not well positioned right now. I think for myself, I'm going to try and take her to Battle Hardened Milwaukee this weekend, and I'm going to be playing, just for any opponents out there, when I sit down across from you, I will be playing an aggressive version of the deck. Probably some heavy boom grenade, heavy racing material. So I'll give you that cheater code right now for anybody that gets paired into me.
Well, funny enough, I think this is coming out after, so
okay, so
all of your
sorry
opponents,
in the past.
yeah, you just got wrecked, and it just is what it is.
You just got wrecked, yeah, baby. I am a little worried. I've been seeing a lot of, like, with Rosetta coming out, a lot of turtle type decks and OTK decks. So I'm doubling down on my aggressive plan to try and go over the top quickly over those decks. We'll see how it works, because you don't get a lot of time to play with this after losing tomes, and it's going to have to change again once I get the whole Armory deck in my hands, or however many copies I get of that.
Yeah. I mean,
buy the
hopefully,
whole store out.
yeah. I mean, luckily, I feel like these Armory decks have been, initially not as hard to get, or maybe a little bit harder to get, but once the dust settles, they're around. But yeah, that's going to be a huge boon for the deck. Hopefully, I mean, hopefully it won't send her straight to LL. I guess regular.
It's one of my biggest fears.
Yeah, well, Inventor Extraordinaire is probably the next.
She's only 90 points away. She's 910 right now.
And that's crazy. That's crazy to think. That's one of the first of the original 8 to go. If that's
in CC.
I mean, I know we lost Viserai in.
We lost. Yeah, that was Blitz though, right?
Yeah, Blitz. Viserai, Reinhardt's gone there too.
So she doesn't have a lot of time left, and it breaks my heart, because I really want to be playing her right now, like spending every moment you can with your loved one while you have them around. But I do, think, and I'm sure probably other people think as well, that Dio is better positioned right now going into the PQ season, going into receiving all those new gifts and goodies from the Armory deck. So that is probably what I'll be playing just from a competitive standpoint throughout the fall leading up to Worlds, which is kind of a shame, but hopefully I can at least bring like Dash IE with me to maybe Armories or something a little more casual.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I don't think we're gonna lose Dash IE right away. So I think we got a little bit more time with her, but I mean, I could be totally wrong. And people.
Is it 5 points per PQ? Is it something like that? I think that they get.
I don't remember. They changed it so much, to be honest.
Yeah, I know. So who knows? She may be gone. She might not be, but she's always in my heart, so that's okay.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But I think that it will be interesting to see, and we'll talk about this in a little bit during the show, 2 heroes running around with boom grenades in a way, and we'll talk about the other ones soon. But there's a lot of boom grenading going on in CC these days. Now, Finals Fighting Spirit, you did the original Finals Fighting Spirit alongside Carolina, who did the new promo version. Can you tell us about the genesis here and what happened?
Yeah. So most people wouldn't believe it, but I think I showed this in like an episode of a show that I started the other day. But I have this little book of like ideas that no joke, this is filled with cosplay ideas, and I just take notes. And Finals Fighting Spirit has been in there since it premiered as a card. I've been wanting to do it, and most people wouldn't have guessed that with how much I do mech type stuff and robotic. But I just really love the art. I just love the whole wild woman, running around with the wolves in the forest. It spoke to me. And I wanted to do it, and it's just sad in there because I have a hard time pulling up these costumes that are like, I don't want to call it a casual costume, but it's a more casual costume. I'm not going to bring it to like a competition necessarily. I just don't think it's of that difficulty level that I would do that for. And so I was actually kind of excited when I found out there wasn't going to be a contest at Tampa. A little disappointed, but excited because I was like, wow, I can pull this out of the idea book, and create this. And at that time, we didn't really know all that much about the set yet. So I didn't know it was going to be a reprint when I already committed to making the costume. And I had been chatting with Carolina, and we decided that, hey, we're both going to bring a costume. Let's do something matching. And originally she was going to make Terra. And then as we got closer to it, they announced the new Finals Fighting Spirit promo, and that this was reprinted. She goes, you know what would be cute? would you care if I matched you? Would you mind if like I did that? I said, as long as you're the new one and I'm the old one, because I already started the old one, like don't make me switch. That I'd be totally cool with that. So it ended up great. We ended up coordinating the whole time, making them kind of in tandem, sending each other pictures as we were making it. And it was just really fun to debut that there and be able to bring something that kind of accidentally worked with the set in a way.
Yeah, and it was awesome, and the whole photo shoot you guys did outside was incredible as well, and really it just like was a nice little feature piece for this card that LSS deemed to be worthy of like a huge feature piece, being a promo, which was really really neat, and it's going to be somewhat of a staple for forever, I think, in the game. Any hero that starts with less life looks at that card almost immediately, along with Scar for Scar, and you're like, maybe I start with this. So it was very, very neat, and you guys killed it. Now, you did mention, some videos you've been making, right? With Pour the Mold is a YouTube channel you started. Now, you did a box break for TCG Player, if I'm correct.
Yep.
As well as kind of talked about your experience at the world premiere. Do you have plans of continuing to like do those kind of, honestly, like a chat that I really enjoyed, like this kind of candid chat to the camera? I think that this is a really good style of content. Do you like that? Was this something you'd like to continue?
Yeah, so the original plan for that channel was just going to be cosplay videos, tutorials, things I'm working on, because I kept getting like reach outs throughout the last couple of years of people saying, how did you do this? How'd you do that? Can you give me some tips or advice? And I said, well, if a lot of people are asking that, maybe I should make it into a channel. And then when Zach from TCG Player approached me at Tampa and said, would you like a box to, take back and do a box break? And I said, sure. And I recorded this video. I was like, I actually do like making content like this, just almost like it's a diary, but like I'm talking to people, I'm interacting with people, and I'm sharing my experience. And I worried that it wouldn't connect with people initially. Like, who wants to sit here listening to me for 10 minutes talk about, what I did at Tampa? But I got a lot of messages afterwards that people really enjoyed that kind of like short spiel about what I did, because sometimes you don't get to see certain things there, or you can't make it to an event. And it's fun to hear what went on, what was going on behind the scenes. How did people feel about that set or that experience? So yeah, I do think, long answer, short answer, I will continue to do content like that. You'll probably only see that content when something like big is happening. So for example, maybe I'll do a little mini vid after the Battle Harden and talk about my experience, like maybe a couple minutes, because it's a smaller, shorter event. But maybe Worlds, I'll do a little documentary or something and bring it back. I want to keep it somewhat bite-sized, so I'm not rambling for, an hour plus on it. But I figure 5 to 15-minute videos on my event experience, and then maybe some box breaks would be kind of fun.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. And a lot of people, even people that go to these events, right? Sometimes they're just either doing something different than your experience or anybody else's experience, right? So that they can kind of come and just like, what was it like for somebody else? I was, like, for example, when I went to the world premiere, and I had a really great experience, but I was like kind of like just really in my head about what this new set was. I was trying to conceptualize it and like, what am I going to do when I play the calling? And then, someone like
you were on the grind set there.
I was. It didn't work out. I'll tell you that much. But it was. Mentally, I was there. But it's nice to hear how somebody else was, kind of experiencing these events. So I would say, and I'm going to speak for everybody that's listening, because they don't have a choice whether I speak for them or not. You should continue that content, because we need more of that content. Now, you mentioned Milwaukee. You kind of hinted at Worlds. Are these some big events coming up for you in the future?
Yeah. So next event, I think we were talking about by the time this comes out, it'll be over, but Battle Harden will be this weekend in Milwaukee with MinMax, my hometown store. So we're going to head up there. I think we can only go for Saturday because I have some important stuff starting Monday. So I have to be back early and get ready for that. But we're going to go play the Battle Harden, the Super Army. I'm really excited about that. And then Osaka obviously is the big crown jewel there. Really, really thrilled. We're going to go for 2 weeks to Japan.
Nice.
I said to my husband, I go, maybe we could go longer than a week, and he jumped right on it. So we're going to do like Osaka, Kyoto, Tokyo. I'm really excited. I was actually just before this conversation downstairs. I'm working on some sewing for my costume for that. So got to get ready.
Oh boy. I'm excited to see what it is. I mean, at this point,
very different.
You've done mech, you've done warrior, you've done an iconic generic piece, I think that we can fairly assume that you're going to surprise us no matter what. So we'll have to wait, unfortunately. But
I'll drop hints as I go along. It's actually another Pears costume. So it's two completely different cards, but like kind of along the lines of what I just did in Tampa. I don't think she minds me saying it that Carolina and I are coordinating on our costumes for Osaka, and we started planning them earlier this summer. So
all right, the seeds have been planted, and I don't know if that's a hint at all, but I'm going to hope it is. And I actually don't know anything, folks, so I'm just making guesses. Now, let's talk about some goals. You have some big events coming up, which are going to be awesome to see, what come out of them. What are some goals going into the next year of Flesh and Blood, right? We're entering the busy time with ProQuest, but we expect like a new set in January, and just kind of the game hopefully continue to grow. How do you plan on riding that wave yourself?
I want to get back into my practice again. So I used to be, I wouldn't say I was like a really good player or anything, but I definitely was a more serious player. I did a lot more practice, previous to this year. And then I just got really busy with all the costume stuff and some work and personal things. And so starting with this PQ season, I really want to buckle down again, especially being that my pet hero is, I think, pretty top of the meta, or will be, as we go into it. So there's no excuse on my end to not, ride that wave, as you said, and really, show what I can do with her. So I want to buckle down. Now, that doesn't mean I expect to win a ProQuest or anything, but I'm going to try my best, going into October. And beyond that, into next year, I want to try to make as many of the big OP events as I can. Like, whether or not I'm actually, playing in them as like approacher, probably not, but I'll try. But going to them, we'll see. You never know. Don't discount yourself. So, but I want to make as many as I can now. There's a lot of stuff going on in my personal life that, it's going to make it a little harder to get the time off and things like that. But as much as I can, I want to try and go and just, again, see the world, play Fab, see the world, and get around, because that has been the best, honestly, part of the last 3 years has been traveling the world, making new friends, and getting to see old ones again. So that is my goal. As far as what sets come out and what I'm looking forward to, I have my pet classes, and I know what I want to see, but that's up to LSS. Do I want to see a warrior in an upcoming set? Do I want to see like a Solana Demonastery set again? I really do. But who knows when that'll be. So. Yeah,
well, we're due for part 3 of that story. I know we are. I don't know when it's coming.
Storyline. They gotta finish it.
We're also due for pirates.
Yes.
I know DM Armada's out there listening somewhere, and he's probably nodding in full agreement. Yes. We need the pirates, so they're coming. I don't know when. Hopefully
they have to. Like, he has been, beating that drum since day one, and I've been close behind to that because, like, I am a big pirate fan. I have a bunch of pirate outfits in my closet that I wear to like the Ren Fair and stuff. So I am so ready if we get a swashbuckler pirate class. I just want to dual wield a pistol and like a rapier or something, just give me that opportunity, please, LSS. Come on.
That would be so sick. Now, I don't think I'm speaking out of school here in terms of the pirate stuff. I was streaming some Riptide games not too long ago, maybe a month or so ago. And at some point during the stream, somebody claiming to be from LSS popped in and dropped a sea shanty. Right. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then they said something about for upcoming lore. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, all right, that's all I need to hear. Sea shanties. Yeah. It's going to be sick.
Just have to keep the hopium alive,
Yeah. I'm very good at that.
Keep it going. I mean, you know what, though? Like, they know what they're doing. Yeah. They know what they're teasing. But they had us do that shanty for, what was it, Heavy Hitters?
Yep.
Like, everybody joined in on, like, I mean, it's like a bar shanty, but close enough. And then we had that, and then now the new, what's the name of the art, where it's like them looking at the map, and they're pointing at, they're doing the handshake. I'm trying to remember the name of the card. Yes, Truce.
It looks like and it's part of Warmongers, right? I think like the same. Yeah.
The minute I saw that art, before anybody even talked, like the minute it just flashed on screen, I turned to my husband and I was like the Leo DiCaprio thing where he's like spitting out his drink. I'm like, right there. I'm like, it's pirates. And he's like, calm down. Go huff your copium elsewhere. I'm trying to watch my TV show.
Yeah. Listen, and then there, Glyph of the? I'm forgetting the
Oh,
glyph
gosh.
card. That's
Yeah, I don't remember the full name, but yeah, glyphs. I just call it glyphs, and I
Yeah.
use it all the time because I just love spamming glyphs in Ocilio.
there's somewhat that looks like a pirate ship, although the artist says it's not a pirate ship. I don't know what the heck he's talking about, but yeah.
They say.
yeah, whatever. But
Yeah.
let's get to Rosetta here. We're gonna do your fresh faves from Rosetta,
Sure.
and we'll keep our hopium of the pirate class alive in our hearts. I gotta ask, and I think I know the answer. Who's your favorite hero from Rosetta?
You definitely know the answer. It's Ocilio. I want my lightning golem little guy. He's so little, right? No, it's really big. I want him to be good so bad, and I'm sure he is, but I think I need smarter people to crack him for me because right now it's very big on copium for me.
Yeah, we were talking before the show, and I think we both agree. It feels like it's missing something.
Yeah,
What are we
there's
missing?
something. Probably one of the band cards, I'm pretty sure.
Probably, honestly, that or just like it feels like there's always one hero that they're like, well, we'll put what it needs in an expansion slot in a later set. We'll tease them with this. We'll dangle the carrot, and I have a feeling Ocilio's that.
Know.
So
looking at his life totals and kind of all the bands and everything, I thought to myself, maybe they made him too powerful, and they were like, we need to ratchet back on this a little bit and think about what we do before you give him another spec or something. Or maybe we want to give him something, but we don't want Kano to have access to it or something like that. So I am keeping the hope alive. You know, LSS has given us stuff throughout time, drip feed, like Teklo's AB. That, you know, I have faith that they're going to bring it full circle. And that doesn't mean that Ocilio sucks. No, he doesn't suck, you know. I just don't think he's as crazy as like I really thought he was going to be. I'm like, this guy's going to be nuts. He's going to be cracked. And then I'm like, oh, he's not cracked, but maybe he is, and I'm just too dumb to figure it out.
I don't think that's the case. And I think you're probably onto something with the bands, because whenever I'm playing Ocilio, I'm always thinking I could use some more cards this turn. And they don't.
Sure would be nice to draw too, wouldn't it?
Yeah, they're like, no more of that. I'm like, okay,
no
fine.
more. Unless you're brute, then it's fine.
Yeah, unless you're brute, which is fine. You know, they've had a hard time except for KO. But
yeah,
what's your favorite weapon?
I'm going to go right along with that, train and save Volzar. I just think it's a super fun weapon.
Yeah.
I love the amp ability, the instant ability on it, the way it interacts with like a lot of the sigils. And again, I'm going off limited play right now. I haven't gotten to do like a lot of CC with this yet. It's a brand new set. And I'm still building out for that Ocilio deck because I am building it. I have faith. But that is my favorite weapon. Just, I don't know. I just think it could be cracked and it's a lot of fun. Yeah. Plus I want to make it. So.
Oh, yeah. I was playing against somebody the other day, and they actually couldn't believe that it amps X.
Yes.
They're like, how did you deal that much damage? I was like, oh, Volzar. And they're like, oh, it's only amp 1. It's like, no, it's amp a lot.
I had that happen all weekend at Tampa, where like I would amp it crazy amounts for like you're just totally irresponsible amounts for limited, you know, and send it at people. And they're like, how did you do that? They think I was cheating. And I'm like, no, turn the card around. Take a look.
Take a look at this.
Like, well, I'll be damned.
You like apples? How about those apples?
Yeah,
what
exactly.
Is your favorite equipment from the set?
So I'm going to divert on this one a little bit. And this one probably maybe a less popular equipment, but I actually really like the bark skin.
Oh, yeah.
And I know it's not electricity, it's not electric, it's not lightning, but I really enjoy it. I think you can get a lot of value out of that particular card if you play your cards right. Haha. How you're keeping it out there, how much value you're getting off the embodiments. I think it could be a really valuable card. So I'm also building out Florian as well. I just don't know what build I want to go with yet. I know a lot of people are liking like Turtle OTK builds, and I'm more of a mid-range player, so I'm kind of working in that direction.
I like the OTK version a lot better. But yeah, the Barkskin's pretty insane, especially in Verdance. Like all those spells are non-attacks. So just here, block for 1 million.
Exactly. So yeah, I did actually pull one out of my box, and that was our third one. Somehow we pulled a lot of Barkskins.
Whoa.
Out of all the boxes we've opened. Like it was like the one thing we pulled multiples of. So luckily we were able to help our buds out that needed one. But yeah, I'm saying it's a sign that I got a lot of those.
Probably a sign. I got a lot of Aether bindings of the Third Age at this point.
Really?
So if anybody's looking for any...
Or trading out.
Now, what is your favorite, just run-of-the-mill card in the sets? Cards you throw into your deck.
So, run of the mill, it could still be like a majestic, right?
Oh yeah, majestic, common, rare.
Like, are you asking me common?
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite reprint is going to be Finals Fighting
Sure,
Spirit.
sure.
I'm biased, but come on, it's a value card. 3 for 7, less life, and you made it a common, so I can put it in commoner.
Oh.
I'm all about this. But as far as the new cards, like the majestics, I would say it's Germinate. I did some filthy things with Germinate over the last 2 weekends playing limited with it. Like when I did manage to pull it, and people are like, how are you sending 10 rune chants across the table plus 7 damage in limited? I'm like, Germinate. It's just such a fun card, just to be able to stack those and send it back and gain life. I mean, come on, best of both worlds.
Oh, it's pretty sick. And I believe one of the buds, I believe it was Rabbit. Shout out Rabbit at the world premiere had Germinate and the new 3 for 10 blocks for 10 card or whatever.
Oh, the
10 foot tall.
10 feet tall and 10 foot tall and something. Oh no.
Crazy card. Anyway,
yeah, you know what I mean.
you get less intellect after you attack with it or block with it. But Rabbit, I believe, was basically setting up his old deck so that he can do a big Germinate and then follow up the next turn with that to send like a ton of rune chants with a turned on Florian and then attack for 10. Hopefully not have to worry about, your intellect penalty, but very cool.
Which I love using that phrase, by the way, like turned on, because like all weekend people are like, is your Florian turned on? I'm like, oh, I'm turned on. Like, here's 10 run chance.
I know. It's almost a shame that the Lightning Heroes didn't get something like that. Well, I guess kind of.
I know.
I guess Osilia didn't. Yeah. Aurora needs a lightning card to be played. That's pretty low barrier of entry. Now, this is a new question we've been asking. What class and talent would you be in the world of Wraith?
I mean, that's like a cheater thing, because I think we'd all know I'd probably be a mechanologist. It's just what I do. And talent, I don't know. I don't think I'd have a talent. And I say that because I love the idea of mechanologists being like the self-made individual, that in most cases they wouldn't have an innate talent. Like you work for it, you educate yourself, you learn, you research. And I've always been a person that is that way. Like I feel like I don't come into something with a natural talent. I'm usually like over researching or practicing something. So I guess that would make sense for who I am and the things I do hobby wise. Yeah.
I mean, that was the softball question of all softball questions for you.
I know, especially for me. You know what though? On my worst days, I might be a shadow mechanologist.
Oh, sure.
Everybody step back.
Absolutely. Now, Rosetta. It's still fresh in our minds and our hearts. So I thought having you on. So last week we did the set review. We talked about every single card, me and Bill. But this week I want to talk about, well, do these heroes measure up to kind of what we expect from a Flesh and Blood set and kind of what we hope to get out of these heroes? And I don't mean just in playability wise, but I also want to like take a look at their mechanics and what they play, as well as their aesthetics and like the flavor of these heroes. Tales of Aria, notably one of the most flavorful sets we've ever had, really got a lot of people into the game. Rosetta's return to Aria. So let's talk about this, because I think it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about. And damn it, it's my show, and I talk about what I want. So
we can't stop you. You're on a tear. Just go for it.
Now, the Rune Blades. Let's start with them, because I think we're going to have a lot of fun with the Wizards, but the Rune Blades are cool as well. Florian. The emo hardcore Florian. Let's start with the aesthetics. We'll start with the aesthetics with each. When you look at Florian, is that something you think, wow, this is a fully fleshed out, like lore-wise, flavor-wise character? And if not, what do you think would be missing there?
For me, Florian, I think does meet my expectations. He's probably like my favorite as far as the story goes, as far as being a fleshed out character. I've just always like, background. I'm a huge like fall Halloween person. I love the whole death rebirth cycle, that sort of thing. And I'm a big gardener too. So I have like a real soft spot for the earth characters in this set, and that whole concept of, life, death, rebirth, growth. And I think they did a really good job with flavor. I was just thinking about this the other day of how long it takes like the heroes to get, as we joked about, turned on. And it makes a lot of sense because they have to grow that. You know, they have to compost it. It takes time. It's not something instant like lightning, you know, like a flash. And so I think they did a really good job on his overall aesthetic. Now, what I found interesting about the new heroes, at least in this set, there's not as much, with the exception of like Osilio, difference between, at least to me, and the young and adult art. Like there is, but there isn't. Like
not a lot,
when I look at the two sides of it, like whereas for example Dash Young looks very different than Dash the Elder, or any of them. You know, so for me with Florian, I like that though, because I think it hints to him being such an ageless character. It's not necessarily that he's growing old or he's changing with time. It's just more of his growth of his power, just in how his looks are different between the two card sets.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point that you brought up, because I mean, obviously I know that they're a little bit different, but yeah, looking at them now, when you say that, it's not a whole lot different, especially with Florian. Right. And it's kind of interesting because you would think maybe, but like they also have this kind of vibe about them where they're these beings that kind of exist within this like kind of region of Wraith that's like totally separated from everything else that's really going on. Now, in terms of the cards that Florian uses, I mean, I would say that these are very flavorful, and there's a lot of Verdance and Florian have a lot of cards that they're Earth cards, and there's certain ones that you're like, this is certainly a Florian card first, and then like Blossom and Decay is certainly more of a Verdance card.
That metal skulls and everything look that he's got on a lot of his is very Florian.
Exactly. So like, you know, I think that they did a great job of making them both care about the same thing aesthetically, where they kind of complement each other when you look at them next to each other. Do you agree?
I agree. And when I think about their cards, like just taking the hero art aside and what they are, because I think when you look at them in like the sense of hero art, they each have their own realm. But when you look at the cards that they can share in a card pool, as you were saying, like there's that crossover of imagery, both the life, the death, the rebirth, the growth, that you see in cards, whether or not they're her cards or his cards. You know, you're seeing some things that are like, oh, these are very spring-like or very joyful, and those are probably hers because they're about life gain, although they both share them. But like things like, I think it's Felling of the Crown with like the dying queen, like it's so metal. Like, it's so good. It's so creepy. And I love it. But yet you have like that life and that, you know, worship around her of like the Rosetta themselves. That is interesting because it both feels like a Florian thing, but it feels like a Verdance thing. And it just shows how they go hand in hand together. Or like the other one where he's like offering up, I think it's him in the picture, offering up the heart or the heartbeat of Candlehold. And that mixing, I'm trying to remember which card that is. It's where...
Well, that's Verdance holding up the spark, right?
There's a couple. There's her with her Candlehold, her Pulse of Candlehold,
and
but then
Germinate.
There's the card.
Yeah, and Germinate. Like, maybe she's like kind of... I guess maybe that's the queen.
Think of like... Yeah, so there's a couple where it's mixing their imagery of like all the queen, like the queen dying or the queen in front of the tree, the heartbeat of Candlehold, and they're both a part of that, which is interesting to me. It's not just the Rosetta on one card or his people on the other.
Yeah, certainly. And, you know, like Earth is definitely probably the more flavorful of the two elements. And we'll talk about Lightning here. But I will say the only thing I was missing a little bit of is, and this is maybe something personal to me because I love fungal stuff. Like I love mushrooms. And like when I think of decay, I always think of like these mushrooms kind of coming in and like they're part of the process. And I'm hoping the reason that it's not really a part of the imagery here is that maybe they'll explore that in a different set in a different region or something like that. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I do think that the Florian was kind of a home run aesthetics wise.
It's interesting that you bring up the fungal thing because I was literally thinking about this the other day and how flavorful their hero powers are because at face value, hers is, you know, growth, I gain life, etc. And so you think of like the attacks back when she's turned on with her power as almost like vines and thorns shooting out of her. You know, as she's growing, it's hurting you. as she gets more powerful. But on Florian's side, I actually thought of his almost like spores.
Oh,
So like the idea that like all these little rune chants are almost like his like spores of like fungal growth and stuff like that are like coming out and hitting you or planting themselves. And I thought that was a concept to me that maybe I had like thought about that, but I'm like, what other people think about that from a fungal standpoint? I thought it was kind of neat.
no, I think you're actually really onto something there, because let's say they designed the set and it was not going to be rune blades, right? Like
Right.
something else. These rune
Sure.
chains could have easily been those spore things, which is kind of a neat idea. And now I'm just like, well, I'll just pretend that's what they
Yeah.
are.
The concept that now they duplicate, where if I make one, I make more, and then more propagate. It's like kind of how I thought of it. And of
Oh.
course, I come up with these like crackpot theories, but that's how I'm thinking of it right
Well,
now.
I mean, that's pretty awesome. Now I want like fungus spore, like
Oh
rune
yeah, like some
chants.
sort of almost like their version of a boom grenade.
Uh,
You like throw something that like
yeah. Oh man, that'd be so sweet.
oh, that'd be sick.
Now you started mentioning the mechanics there, in terms of like getting Florian turned on to make the double tokens, and in a lot of ways, you're right onto it there. Now, decompose is the main mechanic for Earth, and what Florian's doing now. Also, Florian is just caring about auras a lot, and like destroying rune chants, creating these rune chants in the regular Runeblade cards. Do you like, when you look at the Runeblade non-talented stuff in the set, do you find it's making a connection here to Florian, or is it more just the Earth stuff?
I will say for me, like the regular Runeblade cards were not necessarily making a lore visual connection to me. I was still getting that sense of Viserai monastery chain off of them, which is valid. You also want to give people that art and that flavor to put in those decks. They've been waiting for things for their pet Viserai decks or whatever they're working on. Maybe even it's chain for Living Legend, on that side. But yeah, I won't say I made that connection necessarily. Maybe if it had more to do with like just general death or decay. They had some of it in there, like Deadwood Dirge and things like that made me think about like, okay, the spooky forest kind of concept.
Yeah.
But the whole point of Florian is that I'm not evil. I'm not actually spooky. I'm just a sad emo boy, that has to like kill things for life, and he's got this like kind of, I don't want to call it tragic backstory because it's meant to be beautiful, death is life. But having those Runeblade cards mixed in and using them doesn't feel as flavorful, because it's almost like, oh, there's this like evil sense, and it's like he's not evil. He may look spooky, but he's just a nice guy. So
Yeah, certainly. I mean, like, yeah, the Deadwood stuff certainly felt on par, and especially even the Sigil of Deadwood. I mean, that just felt.
Oh, that's so stunning.
Yeah, just incredible. And
yeah,
we have this character showing up in the art of all these Runeblade cards. Not all of them, but like this hooded character in Splintering Deadwood, Condemned to Slaughter. We don't know who that is. And like I kind of wish we got a little bit more of a hint, but yeah. I think that the Earth cards made more sense here. Now, let's move to Aurora. We're on Runeblades. Aurora. Actually, let's talk about Florian playing. Actually, I should say, playability wise, Florian seems to be such a departure from our typical Runeblades. That we know is like, go wide, do the thing, and this
get aggressive.
Yeah. In your experience so far with Florian, whether it be limited or otherwise, does he feel good to play?
I think so, yeah. And I think what I like about him is that, whether or not it is the best way to play him, I feel like he can be like a traditional Runeblade if you want him to be. He can be a little more aggressive, a little more wide, doing more of a mid-range. But I do think, as we were talking about a little bit earlier, that he can be that OTK waiting to grow, his thorny forest over here that is going to attack you. And so I think he feels really fun to play, because I think he can be altered to a lot of play styles for different people and what you're looking for in a deck. And I do like the flavor that he has. And for me, my hero or my deck has to have some flavor. Like, I will say this, one of my peeves in playing, and this isn't for anybody else that does this, that's everybody's business, but I don't like it when I have to play a hero in a way that doesn't feel built for the hero.
Yeah.
Like, it's like cosplaying that hero. Like that hero's cosplaying another hero is the joke. I don't like playing like that. It's just I want to get that whole feeling of my deck is like themed. I'm doing something that the hero would do. And so for me, I think that's what I like about Florian is that he feels like he has a lot of different ways to be built for however you like your playstyle to be.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I concur. I feel like the worst person ever if I sleeve up Riptide without Trench. I'm like, what is this?
What am I doing with my life right now?
and no traps whatsoever except like the legendary ones. I'm like, this. I feel like a fraud. And Florian is probably one of the better ones here to kind of like really have like one not one way, but like multiple ways in which it feels like you're doing the right thing, because the Mordred Tide on a stick that is his hero ability is so powerful in multiple different, like ways, right? Like if you're doing the OTK thing, it's a no-brainer. If you're going mid-range, it's a no-brainer. You want extra damage at the end. If you're going to be aggressive, it's a no-brainer. It's more rune chance. So
yeah, exactly. And that doesn't mean like that all those ways are going to be the top of the meta or the most competitively viable. But you can at least feel comfortable going to like your weekly armory and sitting down and be like, well, I'm not going to get run into the ground playing this in my own way for the most part. I think he's a really versatile hero.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Aurora. A lot of people are saying Aurora is the best deck in the format now. It's the beginning of the format. It is the aggro deck that's coming out of the sets. But aesthetics-wise, what's up with this Disney character we're looking at?
Oh man, I'm gonna get canceled here. Like, what have they been calling that art? Fortnite skin?
Yeah, Fortnite skin. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm gonna say that I think that art is beautiful in its own way.
Sure.
As in, like standalone, it's very beautiful. Do I think it matches with the aesthetics of the set or Fab in general? Not necessarily. But that doesn't take away from, I think, her art as a hero is gorgeous. Mm-hmm. If I take it and set it to the side, I think it's really pretty. So that's where I'm going with that. Is I just think aesthetically it's a little different than I expected for the set, especially the cards surrounding it and how the art almost has a more classical feel. But I still think that she's got some cool concepts, and I kind of like it too in a way that, like, if you take it on its own face value, that she's a young character. Even her older version seems quite young. Some heroes are like that.
Yeah.
And so she's kind of like fun and childlike, wondrous. So I try and take it from that vein that, like, maybe it makes sense for her to have this style of art. It's not my personal taste for what I like. I like something more classical, kind of like Florian or Verdance, or even Cilios. I don't know if you call them classical.
Yeah, this is a whole nother bag of hammers.
It's a whole other thing. But yeah, no, aesthetically, she may not be totally my cup of tea, but that doesn't make her not cool looking in her own way.
It does bring up an interesting thing about the set is we kind of had a pretty good handle on what Earth looked like and what we expected out of Earth from Tales of Aria, but a lot of the lightning cards in Tales of Aria, they kind of blended in with everything, right? But here they kind of had to tackle the idea of like, well, we're just going to have lightning only. How do we do this art-wise? A lot of blues, a lot of yellows, and and these whites and these like cards that almost like not hurt your eyes in a bad way, but like they're like compared to something like Germinate. It's like your eyes
where you have the browns, the earthy colors and tones, and the greens. Yeah, I will say this for the lightning cards. Like aesthetically, I find a lot of them gorgeous, and I do think that like they actually pop on the foiling almost better than the earth cards. Like the foiling really stands out on them and really adds to it that electric feel. When I was opening all the cards in my boxes and in that box break I did, like those were the ones that like hit my eyes first. Of like, wow, this is stunning. I had to keep turning them in my hands, and normally rainbow foils, they're nice, but I'm like, wow, these really pop even more so than a normal rainbow foil. So you could see they went a different aesthetic direction to try and separate it from Earth, and that's fine. I just find that it's interesting, kind of like the Runeblade thing we were just talking about, that because they reprinted cards or reprinted art, that some of it doesn't necessarily like match the aesthetic with other cards. Like maybe you'll have a more classical look that's more of like a monarch look versus something more modern, I guess. So it's an interesting kind of dichotomy between the two card styles in Lightning.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a little tough. And Aurora is one of the interesting ones, and we'll talk about mechanics-wise here, where she feels closer to like what we expected from Briar. This feels like more like the Briar replacement that we were promised in terms of creating this lightning embodiment of lightning token and doing the go wide Runeblade thing, right? She doesn't leave a lot of mystery to like what we want to do.
She's
with
kind of face value. She's kind of like, this is what you're getting, and this is how you better play it, I think.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Where we'll talk about the other lightning hero in the set, which is the total opposite. But in terms of like a replacement for Briar, do you in terms of the mechanics and how these cards play together, do you think this is what like a fixed Briar looks like?
Yeah, I think that is a really good way of putting it, because it feels like, you're going from Cheerios to SpaghettiOs. That low cost, low to the ground, hit you however many times for damage, and then, oh, by the way, if you let something through, good night. Aurora is scary, and at face value, I don't doubt, people's assessment that she might be the most powerful in the deck, maybe from a CC standpoint, at least right now, given what we have. I will tell you, I have not tried to build her.
Mm-hmm.
I played her once in Limited because I tended to want to play a Cilio or Florian or even Verdance. And maybe that's because I wasn't a Briar player. When Briar was out, I think I tried it once and I wasn't as into that style of play. Nothing wrong with it. I mean, really powerful. Just wasn't me. So when it comes to Aurora, I do think what you're saying is pretty accurate, that it does feel like the original, low to the ground, touch you up Briar. But maybe a little less arcane dependent. But I haven't seen the builds that people are coming out with right now, so maybe I'm wrong on that.
I mean, it's going to be interesting. At this point, we probably, like when this episode comes out, we probably have a better idea of what the Aurora deck looks like, but it is...
And we'll all look like fools.
Oh, no, we're going to look so smart. They're like, oh,
so smart.
Really...
My friends are going to watch this who are testing Aurora right now and be like, God, she's an idiot.
No, I'm the idiot here. Don't worry about that. I will say, in terms of mechanic-wise, creating the embodiment of lightning kind of tells you that you want to, well, obviously play the lightning cards, right? You have to play a lightning card first to even be able to activate this. Turns her on, as we were saying earlier. And it's a good way to end a turn to create a lightning embodiment of lightning for the next turn, etc. But you can do it throughout the chain as well to kind of even go wider. So while I think she seemed initially off the bats like a nice replacement for Briar, every time I played her a lot in Limited because every single pool I opened at the world premiere had like 3 Earth cards. It was like 3 Earth cards. I'm like, okay. Yeah. And then I got scared of Acilio because it was like, I don't know yet.
No, I was getting all the wizard heat. Like, so I couldn't play her. I was getting like all like either wizard or Earth stuff.
Yeah. And like I'm playing her and I'm like, this feels, and this is, not to brag, but I started playing when Chain was still legal. This feels like Chain, right? Like creating these embodiment lightnings like mid chain, and you're like, oh wow, this is crazy. Mm-hmm. But also, it's so weird, Max. Burn up shock. What's up with that? That sounds like that sounds like Boom Grenade to me.
I know. I am loving the meld cards. Like, they are, especially the Runeblade ones, because they're cheap.
Yeah.
Versus like the Ocilio 2 cost Comet, Storm, and I forget what the other side of the card is, but
Shock.
Shock, yeah. But yeah, I think that it does feel that way. It feels a lot like coming into the middle of a chain of whatever you're trying to do at that time, and feeling like you're getting hit in the face with an incendiary device when it comes to how Aurora and how the Runeblades play just in general, but mostly Aurora.
Yeah. Are you jealous that another hero has a Boom Grenade now, or?
We can always share. It's all right.
Yeah. I mean,
I just don't want to get hit with it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You get to sneak it off the top.
Turnabout's not fair play.
Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, I think that Aurora, like, I think we could both agree that the aesthetics are a little different than Flesh and Blood. Not bad.
They're not wrong. They're not bad. They're really cute. It just, I guess, maybe next to all the other art in the set, because it's just different, it stands out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but I guess fast and lightning quick. She feels very much like she looks, like super fun and just like happy-go-lucky. Devil May Cry. We're just gonna go crazy.
It fits the character when you like read her lore, like that young exuberance, that just like you said, like Devil May Cry, like get out there, do your thing, like I think she definitely fits her feel of how she's supposed to feel as a hero for sure.
Yeah. Now the wizards. Neither of us played much wizard prior to this.
No.
And now we're banging our heads against the wall trying to make Acilia work. But let's talk about Verdance. We already kind of touched on Earth, but Verdance is honestly like another kind of stunning card to look at aesthetic-wise, right? Just these beautiful light greens and these like pinks and like, almost like sky blues that we see. What are your thoughts on the Verdance suite here?
Oh, I think, her and her entire group of cards that she has, whether they're her independent cards or what she shares with Florian, are just absolutely beautiful. It's just like, it almost reminds me of kind of like Renaissance art a little bit, or some sort of classical art. Like maybe it's not Renaissance, maybe I'm not thinking the right thing, but just even like the watercolor arts that you would see in like the 1800s and such. It reminds me of that, like that just, I don't know, very delicate, deep art. And it's like stuff that I was thinking when I was opening packs, I said like, I want to blow some of this up and put it on my wall.
Yeah.
That pretty, that I could actually see some of these cards like putting on a wall and having like people over that are not Fab players or TCG players be like, wow, that's beautiful art. Where'd you get that print? Just stunning. And as usual, every Earth-based thing in any fiction, she's got red hair, so I appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean,
it makes sense.
I don't want to inject myself here, but I was surprised to not see a Verdance cosplay from you. Yet. I will say yet, just in case
So I will tell you this. My thing is, even if I want to cosplay something, I usually won't cosplay something that's popular.
Oh.
I maybe it's just me. I just always like doing something that nobody else has done or tackled yet, like something new. And I know a lot of my cosplay friends that I talk to are deep into making Verdance right now, or Florian. So I immediately took them off my plate. But she's beautiful. But I will tell you also, I hate sewing. Like I'm doing it right now for a full bodysuit for my next cosplay, and I'm like swearing hours out of every day, and just really it's not putting me in my best mood for cosplay. So I'll let other people take on Verdance. I think she's gorgeous. Of course, I love the whole redhead vibe with her. She has a very Persephone feel to her. He's got kind of that whole, it's like almost like that Hades Persephone vibe kind of thing between the two of them. But yeah, she is stunning, and expect to see a lot of Verdance cosplays. I have a feeling we're going to be inundated with them for like the next 6 months, so people should be happy about that. But it won't be from me. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, that's all right. It's Acilio. You could just say it right now.
Not for Worlds, but maybe next year.
That would be so
it's
cool.
too hard to transport.
I would be shocked. Literally.
Shocked.
to see what that would look like. But she does have one of the coolest cosplayable weapons, I would say. Staff of Verdant Shoots.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Such a cool, like, this is like the Disney-esque that maybe I'm like, I grew up with, probably like Snow White-y kind of Sleeping Beauty kind of Disney, as opposed to the Aurora is a little bit more new school, maybe.
More like Pixar, almost.
Yeah, more
Pixar.
Pixar.
Got that like new look to her. Yeah, no, I agree. This definitely has that vibe of like classical hand-drawn animation. Disney, like the classic Disney princess, and she is stunning. I do love that she has that other part to her, like when you read her lore and you look at the stories of how she like will grow her thorns and get really angry. So I love that. Like she's got this rage in her, and I would love to see more art in the future, more like specialization art with her, or maybe even like a demi hero or something in the future where she like transforms into like something really angry. Like,
oh boy. I
mean, thorns, everything everywhere.
We already have a 40 health wizard. I don't know about the demi hero. It'd be scary. Come
on, I think it'd be great. Like when she gets below a certain health point.
Oh yeah.
Like almost like a Leviah Verdance art combo. Think about it that way.
You could do the opposite, right? You know, if you're below 13 and you gain life and you hit 13,
Oh man.
you flip.
Yes.
Oh, that would be
She-
cool.
Let's not give them ideas for more busted heroes.
I know.
Maybe keep walking back.
Now let's talk about like playability here and like how she feels, right?
Yeah.
She kind of does this like kind of slow grind, grow, like you had said earlier, grow into this kind of like dangerous life gain hero that, you know, has like the ability to do the OTK thing with rampant growth, or even just like ping you with a lot of different things. Like Heartbeat of Candlehold will gain 1 life 3 different times. That's 3 life and 3 damage, which is a pretty good card for 1 resource. So how does she feel to you? Have you played much of her in any of the sealed? Because she's a weird one, because you almost want to play Florian, but then you're like, I think I have to play Verdance.
That's exactly how I've ended up playing her twice, was where I was complaining to myself, like, I want to play Emo Boy. And one of my friends, my husband, would lean over and look at my pool, and they're like, this is clearly a Verdance pool. And if you don't play Verdance, I'm going to have to take your cards away and lock them up. Because, you know, clearly this is a busted Verdance deck. Yeah, she definitely feels like one of those heroes where she gets out of hand very quickly. But she is a bit weak up front. I mean, granted, she has the same life total, so you're like, oh, she already has this high life. But she is slow growing, a little bit. I mean, you could get there quickly, I guess, depending on how your deck is built. For me, I did enjoy the aspect of dealing the damage back on Arcane. But I will say that as a player, I've never been, personally for myself and how I like to play, a big fan of being reliant on like life gain.
Okay.
And I'm married to a recovering Oldham main, so he loves blocking and gaining life. So for him, he's like, oh yeah, Verdance is great. And I'm just like, it's kind of, I'm not saying boring, but until she transforms and I'm able to deal Arcane back, I feel a little bored. Otherwise, it just feels like kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm playing Wizard. I could have been playing Acilio. You know, here's a Wizard card. But she is cool. No hate on her. You know, I think she gets, like I said, out of hand really fast, and I'm really interested to see her more like on camera in competitive play in CC. I want to see more builds of her, what people are doing. Is it just going to be kind of that turtle up, you know, and try and just wait everybody out and deck them, or is she going to get more aggressive? And I don't know the answer to that yet, since I'm not building her in CC myself.
Yeah, she's interesting, and she feels a lot like Florian in regard to like just wanting to play Earth cards. Not so, I mean, and then some of these arcane spells, but and also the arcane spells a little. I mean, I guess there's some kind of cognitive dissonance with Verdant specifically. Now, moving on to Acilio, I think that the Wizard cards make a lot of sense with Acilio because he's the like send spells guy, right?
Yeah.
So aesthetically, what are we looking at with this weird abomination of an awesome hero we love?
Yeah. So when I first saw his art, I didn't even know if I knew that he was a Wizard hero. I just saw the art. I think I was at US Nats. Somebody was like, hey, Rachel, look at this. And they like flipped over the young art. And everybody was running up to me at that event saying, I got to show this to you. Because apparently, you know, anything that can be ridiculous to cosplay is my hero. Supposedly. So I had like a dozen people come up to me on Sunday at US Nats and be like, look. And I was in love instantly. I think is really how it went. Because for me, like whenever I play like D&D or any game, I love adopting like the Gollum type characters, like the homunculi. And so he spoke to me. He's so weird. I love it. You know, I'm like, it's this guy embedded in a wall. And I literally said to somebody, I go, I bet his adult version is just him free to the wall. And it was.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. But I actually like the young hero art better. Everybody's like, that's so weird. I'm like, no, it's great. You're fighting a wall. It's hilarious.
That is actually pretty crazy to even think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a really cool hero. Weird, you know, lore wise. I know when we had Kale from Dead Summer Art on, we had talked about, basically this ancient being. That's why he cares about all these sigils that he's kind of like caring about. Like his hero ability just is like to filter through your deck, basically. But the Volzar caring about the sigils is really cool. And then Sigil Brilliance being like such a weird simple card that actually feels like the best card in the deck sometimes is crazy too. And then you get some hints as to what you want to do with this deck with like Comet Storm, right? Like it's such an expensive spell, but like,
yeah,
I guess it's a pretty good rate, 2 for 5 with the ability to be 4 for 6, I guess, with some other stuff going on. So
don't forget the amp off also.
Yeah, with the amp.
Yeah.
So the biggest question mark here. So what do we think here, mechanics wise? Is this a deck that makes sense? Does it feel like you're doing the thing when you're playing it?
In limited, no, it doesn't feel like I'm doing the thing because I want to be, swapping out cards. I want to be drawing cards, and I don't feel like I get as much of that, in the limited pile of sealed that I've been playing the last 2 weekends. I think that built out, as we were talking about, I'm still kind of waiting and watching for people to crack this while amassing my cards for it and starting to try and build it out. I do think that he's going to be more of a, how do I put this, like a combo or a burst damage, at least the way that I've been seeing him built, or I plan to build him, where you're setting up these couple of big turns within a game. Not necessarily like, hey, OTK, I'm going to be like Kano, I'm just going to wait and kill you. Or, low to the ground damage, but, I'm coming in, I'm swapping cards, I'm hitting you for a good amount of damage, let's say maybe 3, 4, 5 times in a game. And I feel like that's how he should be played, because I think flavor wise, because I like to come up with my own like headcanon for why their powers are how they are. And the way I think of him is almost like when we think about Doctor Strange. Like I looked out at all the possibilities and I found the one, except Facilio finds 5. He's like, hang on, I'm going to just search through. I'm going to get these cards. I'm going to draw them up, and then I'm going to, crack at you. But it almost feels like winding up with the lightning. You hear the thunder and there's the lightning. So yeah, I think that, flavor wise, he does feel like he should be like a burst damage type character versus Aurora's low to the ground, zap, 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 pinging you with all this lightning damage.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like and I feel like this is going to come up on the podcast and just in Flesh and Blood world in general for a long time, where we're just like, what is this hero, right? And like, because there is like the math for like all this really cool stuff that you can do, but you just have to be able to do it, right? And like maybe that's why you got to filter your deck and stuff like that. But even then, that's if your opponent's not doing anything, right? You get to do those things. So
you just want a Gone in a Flash on me.
yeah, the Gone in a Flash stuff.
Back. Yeah,
really cool. But you have to be able to really do it. So I'll be very interested to see where our boy Acilio lands. But he's just
cool. So susceptible to like disruption right now of his plan, and that's what worries me. I like to have contingencies with my deck, and like I said, I can't speak to if he's good, bad, okay at this point, because maybe I'm just not seeing it the right way as a non-wizard player that's trying to become a wizard player with this. So I defer to people that have put in the time with him. I know you had like Mobogs were talking about this.
Well, Mo Bogsley came on and really just, I was like, is this good? No. Okay, that's not good. No. I'm like, all right, I don't know anything, don't I?
I wouldn't trust him, though. He blind KO'd how many eyes against me one time in a blitz match, so.
Well, that sounds about right. Shout out Mo Bogsley. We love you, my son.
We do love you.
Now, let's get to some listener questions, of course. The Buds always throw some heaters. So
they did.
Capolo asks, which mech card that you haven't cosplayed yet would you love to cosplay? And then also adds, when are you going to help Tommy with his Levia cosplay? This comes up multiple times, okay, folks? I have the foam and the stuff right down here, but I got engaged, and life has been crazy. Work's nuts. I'm going to get married, and then hopefully a big event next year. Levia. I'm probably going to be in some kind of purple suit, because I'm learning I'm not very good. I had a whole conversation with Rachel about this, and trust me, I have notes. She has helped me. I have not done it yet. We'll get there.
It's all good. That's what the channel's for. I'm making it just for you, Tommy.
Oh, thank you.
I'll just keep putting out drip feeds of small tutorials, and by the time you're ready to tackle it, there'll just be like an instruction manual out there.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Oh man.
Yeah, so we'll get there. But as far as cards, mech cards specifically, I want to say all of them, but that's a cop-out answer. So specifically, there's not just one. There's quite a few on my book here that I want to do. But most of them I would call the more casual ones. So there's not really like a big one right now that I'm like, oh yeah, I want to bring this one to a competition. It's super crazy because I feel like I've done most of the crazy ones so far. But I still want to do like things like two of the heroes. I still want to do regular Teklovasan just for a fun casual setting. I actually designed the leveler for the Mechropotent, but then decided not to finish it because the more I was like getting, you can see it behind me back here, getting this suit ready, I was like, well, this doesn't make sense. Why would he have the leveler and how am I going to pick it up with these gloves? And I abandoned it. So I'm like, I have to come back and do Teklovasan. And I've taken a pause. I had a lot of people ask me if I do Max. And so I said, well, I've had a couple of friends in the last year since Max came out reach out to me and say, I want to build Max, but I don't want to do it if you're doing it, like step on toes, whatever. And I said, oh, no, go ahead, do it. So, I'm giving them like the opportunity for others to do Max, but I kind of want to make them for fun at some point. And I've done a couple of cross plays, so it'd be another one to add to the pile with Macro and Throttle. So that would be fun. And then another one that's on my list actually is High Speed Impact.
Ooh.
I don't know if you recall that card, but she's got like those like almost like the mechanical hands. Like it reminds me of like Vi from League. And so I want an excuse to make big mechanical hands again, big strong hands. That's what I want to do. So yeah, that's on my list as well. But there's plenty of others. I'm open to suggestions, but just so everybody knows I'm not probably doing mech stuff for a little while. I've got the next like years probably other stuff.
Yeah, we got some time, but we'll start stirring the pot a little bit. What about this one? But excited nonetheless. William from the Table Pit asked, do you have a dream cosplay? Like, I can't do this yet, but one day. And then also brought up the whole Tommy Levi cosplay thing as well. Which we can ignore that, obviously.
Yeah, we'll just ignore that part. So this is going to come out so wrong and sound full of myself. But when I approach cosplays, I have no business approaching. Like the Nitro Mechanoid was only my second cosplay I'd ever attempted in my life. I usually go into it thinking I can't do something, but I'm going to try it anyway. So I don't have like a list that says I'm not experienced enough to do this yet, so I'm going to wait on it. There are harder cosplays, but nothing's holding me back from doing them from like I don't think I can do it standpoint. That doesn't mean I think I can do it. It means I'm stupid enough to try. Just about anything. Now, what I will give you is that there is a costume on my list that I made a promise to my husband that I wouldn't do another giant cosplay after Nitro Mechanoid for a very long time because they're impossible to transport. It requires driving. And that is actually the Evo Sentry unit. Shout out to Federico on that art, which is another giant mech unit. Clearly, it's like that big police unit with like the cannons and everything. And I actually really want to make it. It's been actually like most of these costumes I'm talking about, I've already designed them. Like I do like schematics, I design. It just takes me forever to get to them. And so that's what I want to do. But I need an event that's like contest and probably closer to home to bring that because I'm probably not going to spend 6 months on it and not bring it to a contest.
Yeah.
But yeah, that could be a long, long way off. Maybe I'll be 80 by the time I get around to it.
Oh, no, hopefully sooner than that. That one does seem sweet. It's like straight out of RoboCop.
It'd be fun, though. Exactly. Like, I literally give code names to all my cosplays, and that one's called RoboCop.
Darth Prentice asked, what's your least favorite cosplay you've done? In parentheses, because of all the trauma it caused while creating it. And he also asked, what's the best way to motivate Tommy to finish his Levi cosplay? At least that's a constructive question.
That's constructive. So I used to say that Dash.io was my least favorite from the trauma standpoint. That was more so because the way I designed it at the time, I was newer to cosplay when I was given that opportunity. And I look back now like, oh, I could have done such a better job on that. And I cringe. But we all have to remember where we're at a point in time and remember our growth. So, I need to be proud of where I was when I made that. I guess my newer answer to this would actually be the Evo Mockbreaker that I did for LA Pro Tour. Well, I had a lot of fun skating around in it. It caused me a lot of heartache because I injured myself really bad repairing some stuff. in the hotel room, and I almost missed the contest. I literally skated in 5 minutes before the contest.
Oh my God.
I had gotten caught in my corset zipper. Like I made like a corset torso piece, and I tried to cut myself out of it with an X-Acto knife.
Oh no.
In my hotel room, and sliced my hand like all the way open. I was bleeding for like an hour and a half in a towel. And then I tried to hot glue it back together because I'm bleeding in a towel. What can I do in this minute? And then I hot glued my hand, and I had blisters everywhere. It was bad. It was almost I probably should have gone to quick care. It was that bad. I've still got scars.
Likely, yeah. Oh my God.
And so I almost just ditched the contest, and all my friends who were at the contest were like, come anyway. Even if it's falling off you, just show up. But it's like the whole time I was having to hold my side together while I was skating around for people because like it was trying to come off and my hand is bleeding in a rag underneath my glove. And it was traumatic. And so I can't even look at that cosplay anymore, even though it's cool. It sits in a suitcase, and every time I open it to get something out of there, I'm just like, oh, F you.
It's like, oh, it's still there.
I know.
Oh man. Well, I didn't know that story, and that is scary stuff.
Yeah. It was not fun. I mean, I still got top 4, so it was cool, but it was still very painful. I'm just sitting there gritting my teeth as I'm like bleeding into my glove. Like, thank you so much, guys.
Junior has a question. Junior is a big mech player and a mail carrier. How do you think the Bright Light's power level compares to the sets that have been released since? And do you think the Bright Light's power level was hindered by LSS trying to reset the Fab power creep? This is a doozy.
So I think partially it was hindered, but I can't say that's why it was hindered. We're not in the room where the devs talk. I don't know. And I wouldn't say the set is like superiorly underpowered. Like it's not complete weak sauce. I mean, we've seen where Dash.io has gone. We've seen them improve on Teclobus. And what I would say is that I think, if I had to guess, that there was a lot of caution with the set, not to address just general power creep, but because mech can get out of hand so fast because of the size of their card pool and the fact that it was an all mech set and they have access to so much. And I think it's so easy to break a mech. So my guess would be that yes, it was slightly underpowered in my opinion, but with the intent that they knew they had those expansion slots coming and that they could address it. Because I mean, look at where we're at now with Dash.io, that she's probably going to be S tier come next month, in my opinion. And I think in the opinion of some other people I've talked to that play a lot of Dio. At least A tier once she gets her armory deck. And so that doesn't mean just because something was underpowered, it's going to continue to be. But yeah, I think Max is still sitting, on the underpowered segment. I think Teklo's getting a lot better. I know there's another question having to do with this, so we'll talk about that in a second. But I do think it was underpowered, but I don't know that was the reason. Like the pure just we're trying to downpower sets. It was more so caution, I think, on the part of being careful of what mech could do and get out of hand. Yeah,
it was a big bet to do that set, I think, by
all one class.
Yeah,
the only one.
I don't think they'll do it again. I'll be surprised. I think the mastery set thing is the fix for that. But
I will tell you, I was talking to somebody on the dev team at one of the events, and we were just chit-chatting, and they said, so did you like Bright Lights? And I said, yeah. And they said, I hope it gave you a lot of cosplay fodder, because I don't want to do a mech set like right away again, because it's so, like I'm guessing they didn't say why. They weren't hating on mech, but I got the impression of like it was stressful. Like it was a hard to balance set. And that was the impression I got from them. So it was kind of funny. And I chuckled and I said, well, I will cherish what I have for now, but I expect more mech. So, even if you have to drip feed it to me like a hamster with a bottle,
Yeah, I think we got some time. We'll see though. We will see. Yeah. It'd be cool to see another mech in a regular set at some point. Like,
I want to see it. I want to see a mech pirate.
Pirate. When we go to the Savage Lands, I feel like that would make a lot of sense. Unga Bunga versus, the technology.
The Mechanologist Brute duo class. They're like building like the Rock.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think, whatever, the Transformers Beast Masters, I forget.
Oh, man. Like the Beast Wars or whatever.
Yeah, Beast Wars, the Mech Gorilla. That's the Brutes. That's got to be it. Now, Dead Summer Art.
It's Unga Bunga in time. Let's go.
Unga Bunga in time. Dead Summer Art asks, who is a cosplayer that you feel like doesn't get enough attention and praise? There's probably a lot.
This is a good one. There's probably a lot, but I have to pick one. And so actually I thought it was a hard question, but when I thought about my answer, I was like, nope, it came right to mind after a minute. and that's Lynette. So Lynette, Fabled Hero NZ, is I would say like the godmother of all cosplay for Fab. She was arguably like the first cosplayer in Fab, and she's the gathering place for all cosplay. You know, she created the Discord, the cosplay Discord that we're all on, and she's always there for everybody. She's always promoting it. So, you know, this is my plug for her, that if you don't already follow Shapeshifters of Wraith, which is Lynette's channel on YouTube, go check it out. Go check her out on Twitter. She does interviews with all the cosplayers monthly, does like a cosplayer of the month, gives you behind the scenes into all these people's perspectives, and features those cosplayers that might not get as much attention. So she's the person that sings the unsung heroes. And so I think Lynette deserves a lot more attention than maybe she gets, and I think people should go out and follow her, because I think it'll give you some really interesting perspective on the behind the scenes of the community.
Amen. And finally, Sigma, who has been talking about count your blessings a lot, asks, have you tried count your blessings? Or is it counting your blessings or count your blessings? I forget.
I think it's count your blessings.
Count your blessings with Dash or Teklovas. Now, you had mentioned you don't really like the life gain stuff, but you got to answer the question.
I have not directly tried it, but I have been closely monitoring the situation where it pertains to Teklo, because I have been wanting to put together a Teklo deck for a while. And even though I said I'm not big into life gain, I'm not big into turtling, for him, it makes a lot of sense, I think, with how he builds his armor up. And I am very intrigued with where the stats are going on that. I've seen some of the numbers thrown around, and it's insane.
It's a lot of life to be gained.
I see some numbers like 200. Can't be right.
No, I don't. I mean, somebody was doing the math.
I think that was the damage inflicted on him or something.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Max, this has been amazing as always. Thank you so much for coming on the show. You're the best. Always love having a bud on, and you're a great bud. Thank you again, and please plug anything you'd like to plug.
Of course, anytime, Tommy, when you're ready to address that Leviah issue, that costume. I'm always here for advice.
I swear to God,
from when the group starts pushing you too much to get that done.
I have the stuff here, and it's like talking to me like the Green Goblin mask in Spider-Man. It's like, Tommy, you have to build me.
Yeah. No, always here for you. Always here for you. So yeah, if you guys want to check me out, I'm MaxFerocity on basically every single social media out there. You can find Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. My YouTube is also called Pour the Mold, but you can find me under MaxFerocity as well, I think, if you search in it. So yeah, come by, check out what I'm working on, and feel free to ask questions anytime.
Awesome. Please do, folks. You all know that Max is the best, so you just got to keep doing it. So you can continue to find me on Twitter at freshbudspod. Check out the YouTube if you listen on audio platforms. Give us the old like, comment, subscribe. Bud's Discord, great place to hang out. Submit listener questions like the ones that we asked Max today. And then check out Fresh Juice, indie game podcast I do with my cousin Matt. And we just hit a year on that podcast. That was a lot of fun. And I always like to end every episode talking a little bit about food. Hit me with something that you're enjoying lately.
Something. Ooh. We're having jambalaya for dinner tonight.
Oh, stop.
I've been getting ready for fall with good rice dishes.
Oh, I love jambalaya. Oh, God.
I know.
Oh, man, that sounds great. And I got to figure out what I'm having for dinner now. So, thank you all. Actually, Charmer, he's about to come on. No, he's not. We don't have time. That's all right. We'll get to him next time. Thank you all, and please stay fresh.